Well, the Trump administration's review of AUKUS and the uncertainty over its fate comes ahead of a potential meeting between Anthony Albanese and the US president. Peter Hartcher is the international editor of the Sydney Morning Herald. He says the reasoning behind the review is murky at best.
Well, review is a word that can cover a multitude of sins, Girish, as you know. Is it a stock take? Is it lining up to take it out the back and knock it on the head? Is it an opportunity to use it as leverage with Australia to extract some other items from Australia? It could cover any of those things. The best intel that we have so far is that it is both a technical review of the feasibility of the project and a political review, in the Pentagon's words, of how it aligns with President Trump's America First priorities. Now, although it's a deal that covers and benefits Australia and the UK as well, its primary beneficiary does seem to be the US. So if that's the sole test, I think there's a pretty good chance that the AUKUS deal will survive this review. But as you know, with anything involving Donald Trump, you're pretty brave if you want to put money on it, because he's simply so erratic and changes opinions so lightly and so frequently.
Yes, a big part of this AUKUS agreement was the nuclear submarines deal. So what does that mean for this submarine program, as we're supposed to get some of these nuclear submarines by, at the earliest, I think it was 2032?
Yes, that's right. The first of the 3 to 5 Virginia-class submarines, second-hand American ones that we were expecting to buy, is due for delivery in 2032. Before that, though, there are scheduled basing of US submarines out of Western Australia, and that's on track for 2027. And this is one of the reasons, actually, Girish, it's a good point, because this is one of the reasons that the deal is favoured in Washington. It's one of the reasons that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has said that this is a model deal for other alliances, and why it has bipartisan support in the US Congress. And that is that base access to Australia is effectively giving the US a military base in Australia, in the Indian Ocean, which it doesn't currently have. And for any future operations against China, which is obviously its primary mission, then this is a benefit to the US. As for the delivery program of the submarines themselves, they're not affected by this review yet. Of course, if the review decides that the entire project is a white elephant and has to be slaughtered immediately, then the entire project collapses. But we're a long way from that.
Okay, but do you then see perhaps Donald Trump backing Prime Minister Albanese into a corner to get Australia to increase spending on defence, as was mentioned by Pete Hegseth, as many other countries had also done in Europe?
Yes, this has been a consistent pressure point of the Trump administration against its allies, especially in Europe. Behind closed doors, it's been a pressure point from the US on its allies for 30 years. It's just that this administration is very open and aggressive in the way it pursues that agenda. It could well be used, as you suggest, Girish, as a bargaining point to extract other equities from Australia, including perhaps increased defence spending. But the AUKUS deal in its own right has Australia contributing directly $3.5 billion to adding shipyard capability to the US capacity to build new submarines. That plus the way that this deal extends Australia as potentially, if it suits the Australian government of the day, an operating arm, an extension of the US submarine fleet, then that's a pretty attractive proposition if I'm sitting in Donald Trump's chair. But as I say, anything that depends on Donald Trump's opinion is subject to urgent and violent revision at any given moment.
Yes, and of course, this is coming about a day after Australia announced sanctions against 2 Israeli ministers. Are these 2 issues linked at all?
I'm told not. We heard from Richard Marles, Defence Minister of Australia today, that the US had signalled to Canberra that this had been coming for a few weeks. I'm told that it's been subject to discussion for at least 3 weeks between the 2 governments. which means that it well predates the Israel sanctions and therefore is not a direct result.
So in this vein, do you expect the Prime Minister to have a meeting with Donald Trump anytime soon?
Well, theoretically, Donald Trump is supposed to be at the G7 meeting in Canada, which starts in a couple of days' time. But as I understand it, he hasn't yet confirmed that he's going to get to Canada for the G7 summit. And Albanese, as one of the so-called Indo-Pacific Three, which include South Korea and Japan, has been invited as a guest to that G7 summit and was expecting to have a meeting on the sidelines of the summit, or perhaps an invitation to Washington immediately after the summit. But essentially the US system of government has broken down and is just in a series of spasmodic events depending on presidential whim. So there is no confirmation that Trump will even get to Canada for the G7, or that he will meet, therefore, that he'll meet Kevin Rudd. You know, he came into power claiming to want to annex Canada, but it may be that he's too busy trying to annex California at the moment that he can't even get to Canada for this G7.
Yes. And how might Beijing be viewing this in the context of influence in the Indo-Pacific?
Well, we know that Beijing is very, very firmly and deeply opposed to the AUKUS arrangement. We know that Beijing, together with Moscow, put out a joint statement condemning AUKUS and demanding that it be torn up. So if this review results in the tearing up of AUKUS, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin will be very happy, because the deal would make Australia a more formidable and difficult country to coerce, and it would enhance the alliance bloc of the UK, Australia, and the US. So therefore, China will be very happy if it gets torn up.
Okay, Peter Hartcher, really appreciate your insights and analysis as always. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Girish.